Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, The Devil's Red Bride, #1, from Vault Comics. This was a very well done samurai tale in comic book form. Had a lot of fun with this one. I got a chance to read it a little bit ago, so I knew this one was coming, and I really love it. I got to read it again today, and it was even better. First of all, it's written by Sebastian Gerner with artwork by John Bivens. Now, John Bivens was the artist on cult classic Creature Feature, and you can definitely tell it's him and it's his style, though the tone and atmosphere provided is a little bit different. You have the coloring by Iris Monaghan. The coloring is absolutely exceptional. Jeff Powell does the lettering, but it's a classic samurai tale with a little bit of a twist to it, but it had great artwork. It was brutally violent when it needed to be. It had a humanity to it as well that helped round out the characters and flesh out the story. I had a lot of fun with this one. I love the artwork. I love the coloring. I love the idea. I love the scope. I love the scale. This was a great one. I've never seen anything, quite like this from Vault. This is a real war comic as well, and it's really well done. Top quality. The Devil's Red Bride, #1. The pick of the week, another pick of the week from Vault. This is one of their better ones of the year. They got some really great stuff coming up, so be on the lookout. Speaking of Vault Comics, we got Bleed Them Dry, issue #4, out this week. Elliot Rahal, Dyke Ruan, Miguel Muerto, an absolute fantastic team. I'm enjoying this book so much. It's a cyberpunk ninja vampire story set in the year 3333. Vampires rule society. And there's all of a sudden now this assassin going after vampires, and it unravels this entire conspiracy about society. The story's getting intricate, it's getting deep, the character work is still, that's being done is still really well. You get a lot of explaining in here, but the artwork is just gorgeous. The coloring, the landscapes, the flow of the artwork, everything was so masterfully done on the artistic side. I'm having a lot of fun with this book. It's a cyberpunk, futuristic, ninja vampire story by Elliot Rahal and company. You know I love it. I love it. I thought that was great. Another vampire book from Vault. This is Vampire the Masquerade, Winter's Teeth, issue #3. It's starting to lose me just a little bit. I've never really been into Vampire the Masquerade or anything like that. Now, of course, I am a big fan of vampire fiction and horror and all that kind of stuff, and it's all right. I just feel like I'm kind of missing out. Like maybe I don't quite fully appreciate all the references that are done in this book. I mean, it's okay, but it's nothing super memorable, nothing that sticks out, nothing that stands out, except for the covers. The covers on this book have been amazing. The Mac ones, these main ones. But the story itself just starting to wane on me just a little bit. I'm sure hardcore Vampire the Masquerade fans will definitely see something in here that they'll like. But for me, it's just starting to kind of fall a little flat. Let's jump over to DC Comics. We got Dark Knight's Death Metal, issue #4, shiny foil cover. This book rocks. I freaking love it. Death Metal has just been my fanboy dream. It's everything I love about comic book events. Big, crazy, loud, boisterous ideas, just unbridled enthusiasm and fun from the creative team. It's incorporating everything, and of course, it's a crisis event, and it's referencing all the other crisis events. Now, if you skipped out on those one-shots like Multiverses End and Speed Metal and Trinity Crisis, if you skipped out on those, you may be a little bit lost when it comes to Death Metal. It seems like the one that's going to be the most important to help your appreciation of the flow of the story would be Trinity Crisis, because this picks right up from Trinity Crisis. And of course, the other books are referenced, including Speed Metal. But I'm loving it. I think Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder are doing such a great job of having so much fun with this big, epic, crazy event. Usually a team would take this book so seriously, and us as fans, we would take this book so seriously, and I do, but not as serious as you probably should. This book is really fun, and it's enthusiastically, boisterously, loudly, obnoxiously fun, and I have a lot of fun with it. I'm loving this new evolution of the Batman Who Laughs you know, the Darkest Night. I love all the references to the Watchmen stuff, all the references to all the Crisis events. I'm really liking it. I'm having a lot of fun with it. This is a little bit, this got some fun moments in this issue, and it moves the story along a little bit, and it hits to a point where I'm just so excited to see what's happening in the future of death metal. Snyder and Capullo and company are doing a great job on that one. From DC Black Label, we got Rorschach #1, first part of a 12-part series, written by Tom King with artwork by Jorge Fornes and Dave Stewart. The artwork in this book is awesome. I'm a big fan of Jorge's work and, of course, Dave Stewart, so I was very excited to see them on this book. It's got a noirish style to it. It's a murder mystery, and it really fits what the attempted tone of the story is. I didn't really like this book, though. It doesn't feel necessary. It's like a murder mystery, and there's a mystery of who is the new Rorschach, and then it kind of has a neat little twist at the end, but ultimately I was reading this book, and I was like, I feel like this book is not necessary. Like, even books I don't necessarily 100% like Before Watchmen, you know, when DC goes back and dives into the world of the Watchmen, against Alan Moore's wishes, but whenever they do that, at least like with Before Watchmen, that felt like, okay, well, you're telling us like stuff like a prequel type stuff that's interesting. This one just doesn't feel necessary. It doesn't have any kind of weight to it. I don't know. I get what King was trying to do with the story, but nothing about it was super appealing to me. I like the artwork, but the story didn't grab me. It didn't do anything unique or different, which I was expecting this to do because it's got a legacy to live up to with the Watchmen. But I don't know. I'm definitely going to be checking it out. One of the things I really like about it is Jorge Fornes, in a tribute almost to the Watchmen. You could think, oh, it was just going to be filled with 9-panel pages again, you know, because that's what Tom King likes to do in other works of his, and of course that was a very big, you know, signature move from the Watchmen book. But Fornes doesn't do that. He does his own approach to the layout and composition, but still kind of at times mirroring the grid style, but in his own way. And I thought that was cool. But the story was kind of lackluster, and it just didn't feel like it was that important. But Strange Adventures #6 was the exact opposite. This was Tom King writing a script that resonated with me, that I found very powerful, that I thought had a lot of subtlety in the script, and a lot of directness as well. And I'm loving this book. You got Mitch Gerrits, you got Doc Shaner, two artists doing two different stories, one set on Rann during this battle, the other one set on Earth in the aftermath of this battle, and now people are kind of questioning Adam Strange, and is he a hero, or is he like a terrorist, basically? And it's up to Mr. Terrific to try to figure out the mystery of what happened, and the story's becoming a bit more clear, right? And the two art styles are so different, but they merge and mesh so well together in the structure of the story. And this has been one of my favorite things Tom King has written since Mr. Miracle, maybe even since The Vision, because I think The Vision's a little bit better than Mr. Miracle. I think Strange Adventures is super strong. Issue 6 was a super strong issue. Great dialogue, a great sense of pace and flow. The artwork is just masterful. And I think this is absolutely amazing. Probably one of the reasons why I'm a little bit disappointed in that one. I had more hopes for that, but we shall see what happens. But Strange Adventures, super solid. Detective Comics 1028. Kind of a forgettable Batman story. That's what we're getting right now from Peter Tomasi. I know that he has the capability to deliver great comic book stories, but I feel like maybe he's already made his statement on Batman, and there's just not enough raw passion there to really make these anything more than just kind of throwaway stories, and that's what this one is yet again to me. The artwork's pretty decent. The story's okay, nothing bad, but it just seems to be lacking direction. This book seems to be lacking direction. Maybe it's time for a shake-up, something a little bit more grounded that can go alongside the more superhero bombasticness natured Batman by James Tynion. But Detective Comics is just, it's definitely not working for me right now. The Batman's Grave #11, penultimate issue, great issue, I loved it. What this series has become known for are really excellently paced and executed brutal fight scenes. Great, masterfully written conversations between Bruce and Alfred, the best written Alfred in years in the comic book, and a really interesting mystery that is becoming clearer as the issues progress. And Batman's Grave #11 has all of that and more. Really great stuff. I think that Ellis and Hitch have been doing a great job with the series, and I'm excited to see how it's going to wrap up. in the next issue. Batman and the Outsiders number 17. Speaking of wrapping up, this is the final issue of the series. And what I really like about what they were able to do here is that they actually gave Brian Hill an entire issue to just kind of wrap everything up. The big conclusion of the Ra's al Ghul story was in issue 16. That could have been the last issue with a real quick coda at the end, like on the last page. But instead, Hill actually gets to take the time to tell an entire issue's worth of resolution for this story and set up for these characters in the world and DC universe to come. And I think that Hill did a great job with this series, and I think he did a great job of wrapping it all up and having this nice coda issue and setting up some really interesting directions for these characters like Katana and Black Lightning in particular. Also, Cassandra and Signal, for sure. Superman number 26. Once again, Superman comic. Once again, I can't not read it. Once again, I'm disappointed. Once again, amazing art. Ivan Reis is perfect for Superman. This is the artist I've wanted on Superman for years and years. And it's a lackluster Bendis story that's so thin, so just out there in the open, no subtlety, nothing. I mean, I'm not trying to say that Superman's got to be the most, like, subtle and nuanced and poetic book or something, but you can't give me something more than just aliens, Superman, alien bad, Superman good, they fight. Give me something more. Alas, Bendis' run is ending, but I hope that Ivan gets to stay on this book because I'd really like to see him get a chance on a long-term run on this book with a writer that can anchor that story in a little bit more. Wonder Woman 764. This might be my last issue of Wonder Woman. Steve Pugh's on here, and the art's pretty fine, but the story's still wonky. It's got a very cheesy 70s type vibe for me, and it's just not working for me with this character. I thought Tamaki came out pretty strong with the first couple of issues, did some interesting stuff with Max Lord and Liar Liar, but it started waning. It started feeling just mediocre, like a typical superhero book. And I don't know, man. This one just didn't work for me. Maybe I'll give it another issue or two, but I'm pretty certain this might have been my last issue for a while. Unless it gets good again, y'all let me know. The Flash 763 is here. This is the first issue without Joshua Williamson, so that's kind of sad. But it is a pretty solid issue. It's not bad. It's a neat story about the Trickster, and the Flash loses his Flash ring, and of course with the Trickster involved, and you got other Trickster-esque type characters, and I always loved that. That's really cool to see, like, the Prankster, for instance. That's, I don't know, that's the, I think that's pretty cool. But Flash 763 is pretty decent. I don't know if these cats, whoever the writer is, I don't know if this new team is the new team. Kevin Shinick and Clayton Henry. I don't know if this is the new team going forward, because then it gets interrupted by Endless Winter. We have to just piece together from solicitations coming out from January and on. But it feels like it's not, it feels like a filler issue, but it does set up the next issue, but it doesn't feel like the start of someone's run. It feels like someone got the gig to do a few issues of Flash, but it was still pretty decent. It was a decent Flash story. And that's good enough for right now, because following up Josh Williamson is going to be really tough for whoever actually gets to do that long term. The Green Lantern issue number 8 is here. Once again, I'm just going to say, this is a very well done, innovative, and creative attempt at a Green Lantern issue. Liam Sharp, Steve Oliff, and Grant Morrison did a great job of innovation on here and doing something different and challenging. I was so lost reading this book. Now, this is not the first time I've read a Grant Morrison penned script comic book and was lost. So I've become a little bit lost in Green Lantern over the last couple issues, and every time that happens, I got to do a reread and catch up. Even that being said, this was a cool issue with some really cool concepts and really creative way to tell the story. Man, it was really freaking confusing. It really was. But it was good, but it was really confusing. Like, what happened in that issue? I don't know if I could actually accurately explain it right now. I really couldn't. No, not at all, really. It involves the antimatter universe and Hal Jordan. Hawkman number 28 is here, the penultimate issue of Hawkman. They got one more. Vendetti has done a great job with Hawkman. It seems like the book should have ended when that story ended, when he ended it, but now he's getting a few issues to kind of do some extra stuff, and it just feels like he's cramming a lot of emotional story for the arc of Carter into the last couple of issues. That's what it feels like to me. Art's still good. The gist of the story is still good. It just seems like the execution is handling like pretty much what he wanted to do with Carter probably for the next like year in this book, in this run, but it got canceled. Like, it feels like he's shoving all that emotional stuff in there all at once. So it kind of stunts the flow of the story a little bit for me. But it's going to be sad to see the book go. But Vendetti's done something really that's worth celebrating, and that's taking all this different crazy Hawkman mythology and bringing it all together in a way that makes sense and actually enriching it and adding more to it, which I thought was cool. So Hawkman 28 is out. Justice League Odyssey 25, J-Lo, final issue. I said this when I did my DC preview on the Rockin' Robbie Live Sunday night, but this was the final issue, and I'm glad to have read it, and it does a great job of setting certain things back in place for other creators to come into the future and use, most notably Darkseid, and that's cool. Ultimately, when you look back at all of Snyder's Justice League and the lead into death metal and everything like that, ultimately, this is going to be an average, probably kind of forgotten superhero Justice League comic book for a while. Nothing super significant happened, except for it did have some good work with Darkseid. And it takes those characters and it dumps them right into that Justice League book that Josh Williamson did, which came out last week, so that we already saw that. But anyway, it was a solid conclusion to a pretty decent Justice League, like, space-time Darkseid type story. So I liked it. I'm glad that I was following that. DC, The Doomed and the Damned. This is a giant 80-page, like $10, one-shot comic book for Halloween time. It's got a bunch of books in here, a bunch of, like, Solid and Ahmed doing a Batman story, John Arcudi doing a Xanadu and Man-Bat story. These were not very good. They were okay. They were kind of subpar. A lot of the times when DC does these, like, seasonal and quarterly specials like this, they have some pretty decent nuggets in this side. This one, though, doesn't really have a story that really stands out to me as being something original and cool and worth picking up. So I would definitely skip this one unless, like, collecting Halloween DC specials is, like, your jam. Then don't miss this one, obviously. But yeah, that's what I thought. Let's jump over to Marvel, where we have the Amazing Spider-Man number 50. All right, let's address this. Last week, we had Amazing Spider-Man 49, legacy numbered 850. It was a $10 giant thing that was the end of that Sin Eater story, which was all set up for this, which is finally the story where Kindred shows up. So 50 issues later, actually more if you count those point issues that they do, which there's more coming. Okay, we'll get to that. So then, after celebrating 850 issues for $10, now we're celebrating 50 issues of the current volume for $6. Well, this is a better one than the 850, I'll tell you that one. First of all, it's cheaper, but it's also just one story and it flows, and it does have the revelation of who is Kindred, what's going on here. It took 50 issues to get here, and I think Nick Spencer's getting cheeky in here because he's actually having a character in the story address the idea that it's been too long of a wait for the Kindred story. Haha, yeah, we see what you did there. Anyway, issue number 50, here's the thing. This starts the Last Right story. That's neat. There's a checklist in the back for the story, right? Y'all, this thing's 11 parts. Why? Because it's all Spider-Man, but they're doing that point stuff again. So right next after this, after 2 consecutive oversized issues of Spider-Man, we get a point issue. Oh my goodness, this is like the Hunted story. It's an 11-part story. I like the revelation about Kindred. That's cool. Man, oh man. I foresee weeks of Spidey drudgery ahead for me. But we do have Ten of Swords. Let's talk about them. We got 3 chapters in Ten of Swords this week, and I'm going to say this again. I do recommend that you just read all of these if you want to read this story. Or if it's too much of an investment all in one week, just get the trade or hardcover when it comes out. Because I think the best way to experience this story is to read it chapter by chapter. Each issue has its own voice. But there is an overall narrative that's going through it. So in this one, we have the Hellions. Now, nobody in the Hellions is one of the sword bearers, right? Because most of these issues have been setting up one of the sword bearers getting their sword. But in this one, there's a really cool idea that the Hellions are going to go and try to sabotage the tournament and make it so that through maybe a triviality, like it can't happen or something. So the Hellions have their mission, and Sinister winds up having to go with them. And there's some really great Sinister moments in this, and I've never really been that big of a Sinister fan, but I'm, like, they're winning me over here. Is this Wells? Yeah, Wells. Carnero's artwork's fine. It's a really funny book, too, and I liked it. I thought this one's a really cool, fun book in the midst of all this Ten of Swords stuff, and it was a different take than just having another chapter about another person getting their sword. Like New Mutants. New Mutants number 13. This is about Cypher. Is it Cypher? Yeah, it's Cypher. It's about Cypher getting his sword. It's the Warlock sword, right? So we knew that that was happening. So this is more than just about him finding his sword because he already has a sword. But this is Magic's kind of like worried that, yo, my friend's going to die because I don't think he knows how to fight. So she's going to train him. And there's some really interesting stuff going on here. I really like this issue. And Rod Reese's artwork, I really liked it. Thought it was really cool and appropriate for the tone of that, in particular, that chapter. And then we have Cable number 5. This picks up on some of the stuff about the sword satellite. What is it, the Peak or whatever? What's going on with Cable and his mommy and daddy upstairs. Not really his, I guess it's his stepmom. But anyway, I'm really liking this too. And once again, he already has his sword, so it gets to throw in some extra elements in there. It's not just about a sword quest. But it was really cool, and I liked it. And they were all kind of all tied into one another, and they reference each other. And yeah, so I would definitely, I'm enjoying it. And most everybody that's been reading Ten of Swords has been enjoying it. It's actually a well-done X-Men crossover. So that's cool. We also got the Ten of Swords handbook. If you maybe want to learn a little bit more, if you weren't reading all the X-Men stuff leading up to this, if you don't have a whole bunch of knowledge, that's what this is. It's just a handbook of the characters and places and situations that are used and prevalent in Ten of Swords. The Immortal Hulk is here with issue number 38. I really like this one. This one had a great horrific vibe to it again. We get the Devil Hulk being involved a little bit more, and I think that's super cool. This story is really starting to heat up. It's hitting its peak. This leader story's been interesting, and Joe Bennett's back doing what he does. So I really like this issue of Immortal Hulk. It's a bit inconsistent for me as it's been trucking along over these last 20 issues or so, but this was one of those good ones that I really liked. I thought that was good. Avengers 37, this wraps up the Age of Khonshu story, which started off with such a bang and ends with such just a whimper. Like, and that's almost how I would describe every single Jason Aaron Avengers story. It starts off really great, cool concept for a story, great setup, and then it just kind of meanders around and just kind of dully ends. And just like the Age of Khonshu, I don't know. It did set up another interesting story that's probably, because the next issue is probably going to be a great bang, and then just a fizzle. And that's what's been going on the entirety of Jason Aaron's run for me. But I'm sticking with it. Why? I don't know. I just want to know the ultimate mystery. I don't want to feel left out. But this book's been dull for me. Each story starts interesting. It gets dull. It fizzles out. Speaking of fizzling out, Captain Marvel 22. I almost dropped this book so long ago. And then the Empire thing happened. I thought some of those some of those issues were interesting. And this one, it's just once again a Carol flung into another world type thing. Like, we've seen this story. This was literally Kelly Thompson's first story, kind of in the same way. It's like almost structured the same type way. Something's going on. Carol is out of her element in a world she doesn't recognize. It's just kind of, it's all right. It's not bad, but it's nothing that's like going to make this book a must read or anything like that. It's kind of dull, kind of lost me, so I think I am finally done with Captain Marvel. And then we have Warhammer 40k, Marneus Calgar. Written by Karen Gillan. I know nothing about Warhammer at all, okay? I mean, I know that they're models. I know that people buy them and play them. We sell them at my store. I know nothing about them. I know comics. Now they're crossing again. So Marvel's doing it. Marvel's got the rights now, and they're doing it. Karen Gillan and Jason Burrows. So like, sure, let's check it out. I have no clue what was going on in this book. Like, they were trying to do a lot of like get caught up on world building type stuff, but I just felt lost the entire time. My buddy, who is a Warhammer guy, read it though and told me that he thought it was good. He didn't think it was bad. He thought it was pretty solid. So if you're a Warhammer fan, maybe check this out. If you're just a Gillan fan, I don't know. I felt very lost in that one. I felt like it kind of lazily trudged along as well. From Boom Studios, let's talk about Boom. We have Once and Future, number 12. I believe this is the end of the second arc because it does wrap this Beowulf stuff up and set up what's to come. And it does it in a masterfully exciting way. Karen Gillan, hey, I didn't even set that up, that both Gillan books were back to back. Anyway, Gillan does a great job with this story of turning famous legends and myths on their heads, shining them up, polishing them off, making them relevant and feel supremely excitable and just invigorating today. The artwork by Dan Moore and Tamara Bonvillain. Tamara Bonvillain's the best colorist of the year for me right now. And it's because of her work on Once and Future in particular. The line work by Moira with these brilliant, just poppy colors with these great contrasts, and it gets sickly sweet and it gets bright, and it's got an atmosphere of adventure and horror all wrapped up into one, but a really satisfying conclusion to this story and a great setup for what's to come. Once and Future has been one of the best books on shelves. Issue 12 is no exception, and another great one from Boom is The Red Mother #9. I'm loving this book. I just love this book. I think I'm starting to see the end of this book, and I think it's actually going to come sooner than we think. I think I'm starting to see it. I don't know if it's just something, whatever. This book is awesome. I'm really liking it. It is a masterclass at concise and engineered storytelling. Not a line of dialogue wasted. Not a line on the page wasted. Nothing. Not a brush stroke, not a pen stroke, not a color. Nothing is out of place. Nothing is too much. Everything is the exact right amount. And I love this book. Expertly paced. It hits raw, emotional, resonating levels. And it does it with very little as far as words or images on the page. It strikes. It is truly creepy and horrifying at times. And it's very unnerving and unraveling at times on a psychological level. The Red Mother is a psychological horror thriller comic book masterpiece right now. I think I see the end game. If it plays out that way, it could be a masterpiece. But even if it plays out in a different way, whew. And if you want to know where I think it's going, maybe Rockin' Robbie Live, maybe someone bring it up, we'll talk about it. 7 Secrets #3, a very exciting chapter here. Boom is just on top of things. Tom Taylor, Danielle Di Nicololo, Walter Baiamonte. Really liked this one. I thought it was good. 1 and 2 did a great job of setting things up, getting the story going. Now we're really getting going in issue #3. And now you're getting to understand why all that backstory was necessary and what we're setting up. And it's all coming together. And we're about to have a real fun ride because the artwork in this book is supremely kinetic. It is charged with a crackling energy that just soars off of the page at times. It's got a great flow of dialogue that goes throughout that really hits with those different camera angles and perspectives, and it's just such a fun and exciting book, and it handles the emotional weight of the story as well as being a thrilling, high-octane action adventure at times. 7 Secrets #3, spot on. From Dark Horse, we have The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys National Anthem. So, big fan here of the Killjoys album by My Chemical Romance. Big fan of the original True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys comic. This one is set before, so I guess it's kind of like a prequel type thing. I was very lost, very confused, but that's okay. I felt that way when I first started reading True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys, and then I really kind of got into it. I thought the artwork in this book was great, by the way. It's Leonardo Romero, of the recent Kate Bishop Hawkeye book. Oh my goodness, him with Jordi Belair on the coloring, and it's some of the best Belair work I've seen coloring in a long time. It's got some real fun, zany, wild, Gerard Way type things, obviously, and we got Sean Simons helping him out with it. Yeah. So I liked it. It's fun, it's raw, it's energetic, it's boisterous, it's absurd, it's wacky, it's crazy. If you like his stuff over at DC Young Animal, if you liked his Doom Patrol, yeah, check this book out. If you like Umbrella Academy even. This book, though, it is a little weird. It's got some great concepts to explore. The artwork is a masterpiece in my estimation. But I'm a bit confused at times, but I think I kind of got a handle on it. I think I need to reread that, but really liked it, so tune in, and drop out, kiddies. Bill and Ted Are Doomed, #2 is here. I love this book so much. This is a silly issue. It's a book that's not to be taken too seriously, but it does bridge the gap between the previous 2 Bill and Ted films and the most recent one, Face the Music. And it does it in a really cool way. So in this issue, we get the band trying to go on a tour, the European World Tour, and it's just not going so well for the Stallions. This is going to be showing you their downfall as a band, as a successful band, and even their relationship with death. And so that stuff's great. There's some great moments of Station! And I absolutely love this book. I adore it. You got to be a Bill and Ted fan to appreciate this book. And if you are a Bill and Ted fan, you will appreciate this book. If you're not, just skip that one. We Live, number 1, is your sleeper hit of the week. It's from Aftershock Comics from the Miranda brothers. This book was really, really cool. And a really cool, neat bonus from Aftershock is that gatefold cover. How freaking cool is that? But yeah, the artist is Inaki Miranda, and Inaki and Roy, the writers. So the Miranda brothers. I really like this book. Here's the premise. Mankind has now gone through so many like near cataclysmic events, right? And they're just kind of on the edge of extinction, but they persevered. But then they finally get notification from alien life that says, your planet's literally about to end. You guys are going extinct. We know this. It's about to happen. And humanity is there to accept it, basically. But the aliens say, we're going to send down 5,000 bracelets. You give them to 5,000 children. They genetically bond with them, and we will take those children with us into the stars to allow the human race to continue. That's an interesting concept, but the way the story is told, the way it's done, it's got a very satirical, sarcastic, kind of witty nature to it, as well as just beautiful artwork and a luscious setting and great world building. We Live was really surprising. I was very low on my radar. I knew it was coming. I knew it had an interesting enough concept, but I'll be honest, when I first looked at it, I was like, oh, I don't know. But I really like this book, and it's my sleeper hit of the week. I loved it. We Live, number 1 from Aftershock Comics. You might want to check that one out. Commanders in Crisis, number 1 from Image Comics. It's a brand new one from Steve Orlando. It was a pretty decent setup. I didn't mind it. I thought it was interesting. I can't really get too deep into it without spoiling it, so I don't want to do that. But what I will say is this. Steve Orlando does a great job at referencing, like when he does his DC work, of referencing crisis events, doing cosmic crazy things. A lot of the times working with things from like the Grant Morrison legacy, like, you know, DC 1 Million and stuff like that. So he's really good at that level of superhero fiction. And this is his baby it's superhero fiction his way without anybody holding him back. So this is a crisis level type story, by Steve Orlando with his own characters outside of corporate shenanigans. So it read way more pure and way more exciting and way more fun than some of his DC work, which to me sometimes comes across just a bit held back. So I was very delightfully surprised by this one. I thought it was pretty decent, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go. Redneck Returns. It's been a while. Redneck number 28 sets up a whole new gist for this series. A lot of stuff has been changing in this basically Texas vampire story by Donny Cates and Lysandro Estherren D. Cuniff. The artwork is still gritty and raw, rugged and ragged. Like the skin on a neck of a vampire victim in a savage night of blood passion. What? Anyway, Redneck number 28 is pretty cool. It sets the story up again to go into a different direction. I like what Donny Cates can do with playing with vampire lore, with familiar tropes and not so familiar tropes, and the blending of each and every which way of that. And I really like it. It's a little gothic, it's a little modern, but it's definitely a great vampire book, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Redneck has gone a lot longer than I thought it would, and it's probably one of the reasons is because Cates can game change in it so quickly and so efficiently. Stealth number 6 is here. This is the final issue of the series. A really solid ending to this series that I did not see coming. It got way more sci-fi than I realized it was, but I am very pleased with that. I have loved the artwork. I love the story. I would have liked to see this go on for a little bit longer, but I also like stories that have beginning, middles, and ends. So I was satisfied. I think this stands the test as a decent indie superhero book. It had great nuance and human relationships and internal turmoil at times. And it had some great conflicts, some great action, some great artwork by Nate Bellegarde of Nowhere Men fame. I would love to see him back on that book and have that book actually come out again. That would be amazing. Tamara Bonvillain on the coloring. Great choices. A different style, but really cool, and I like the ending. Kind of abrupt. Kind of just happened quick. There's a lot of explaining to do because it got a little bit more sci-fi than I thought it would. The Vein, number 1 from Oni Press. This is written by Elliot Rahal with artwork by Emily Pearson, so I definitely wanted to check this one out. It's a vampire story. It's set in 1941. It's about these crooks, kind of like a Bonnie and Clyde type gang, but they're vampires and they're stealing blood. And then you got the FBI involved. There's an agent. He's like tracking them down. Then all of a sudden, Pearl Harbor happens and the story completely shifts its focus. It was decent. It was solid. It wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I was really expecting a lot from Rahal and Pearson. Pearson's artwork was all right, but at times it felt like it wasn't quite matching the atmosphere trying to go for with the story and the setting. And Elliot Rahal's, I don't know, it's like, I read this and then I read Bleed Them Dry shortly after. Bleed Them Dry is just written so well. And this one, it's just got some, I think it's the period. I don't know. It was good. It was decent, but it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I was slightly let down by the vein, but I still thought it was a solid enough issue that I'm definitely going to check it out. The rest of it, because Elliot Rahal's a great writer and Pearson's a great artist, so let's check that out. Grindel, Kentucky, #2 is here. For the most part of this book, I kind of felt lost. Like I couldn't remember what had happened. I'm looking at Tommy Lee Edwards' artwork and I'm like, I like the artwork. You know, I think it's good. And I was like, I just kind of not interested in what's going on. But I remember kind of liking the first one. And then by the time we got to the end, it all came back to me. And I was like, I was down to like read it again and read more. So there's only 2 issues left. We're halfway through now. It's a 4-part series. But it's kind of like Justified meets Monsters in a way. But it didn't, especially for a 4-part story, not a lot happened in issue #2. I'll tell you that. In fact, not a lot has happened in 2 issues out of 4. So I don't know. If this is just an opening salvo. Maybe it'll be a volume 2. I don't know. But it's interesting. It's not the strongest AWA book. Bad Mother #3, though, was actually better than I thought it would be. Bad Mother's a book that I'm like, it's okay. It's all right. But then each issue does get better than the last one. It's about a mother, a suburban mother, soccer mom, if you will, whose daughter gets kidnapped after getting involved with some shady people. So it's kind of like Taken, but with a suburban mom. It's like Taken meets Weeds a little bit. You can imagine that, right? And it's actually getting better each story. Like, seriously, Mike Deodato Jr.'s artwork is okay. It's average. It's okay. It's decent. But Christa Faust, it's got a very lean script to it. It's got a nice flow. And it really does lean itself into Deodato's style right now. And the writing and the artwork kind of complement each other. And it's a really fun read, and it's cool. I like it. From Mad Cave Studios, we have Stargazer #2. Y'all, I loved this issue. It's Teen Dog Shades appropriate. It's about aliens, UFOs, abductions, and I'm loving it, especially with the Antonio Fuso artwork, with the Simone, what is it? It's Stefano Simone. The coloring on this book, oh my goodness, and I love the artwork. It is my kind of a thing. And if you like hanging out on Teen Dog Shades nights, this book is for you. I loved issue #1. Issue #2 kept it going, kept the mystery up there, gave me a distinct X-Files type vibe, but with a little bit of psychedelia thrown in there, especially with the coloring. It's got a great touching story that's running through it about a brother and a sister, and it's also got some really great alien abduction type stuff going on. I love it. Stargazer #2 from Mad Cave Studios, and that's Anthony Cleveland, by the way. Yes, the writer. Really good one. We got a debut from Mad Cave. It's Villainous #1. This one was actually pretty interesting. It's about, I'm not going to spoil the book, but what it is about, basically, is it's about superheroes in training, right? So superheroes, it's a superhero story, and they're in training, and they go onto like a sidekick program, and you got to like be a sidekick to a hero for a while. And so it's about this like reptile lady, and she becomes a sidekick to one of the most popular heroes, and let's just say things are not quite what she thought. But I really like it. I thought it was super strong. It was a decent first issue. It's not going to blow you away or anything like that, but it was a fun story. A little bit of satire in there and some great little one-liners. So let's talk about Dynamite. Dynamite is basically Marvel Zombies and DC's for the Dynamite properties. Most specifically, Red Sonja, Vampirilla, Warlord of Mars, and Peter Cannon Thunderbolt, which is a really weird stretch, I think. But it was okay. The artwork's not too bad. It's wonky at times. Other times it works. The story is a little bit clear, but not so clear. It feels a bit disjointed, but it's because you got all these different characters from these different time eras and locations. It's all different time and space, and it can all be brought in together and make sense, but it hasn't made sense yet, so it was a little bit disjointed in the story because of that. The artwork was okay at times and kind of weird at other times, so it wasn't the most consistent book. I thought it was okay. It had some decent covers, I guess. But Dynamite #1, just, I don't know, it was all right. It's just a zombie version. It's the Marvel Zombies version for the Dynamite stuff. It was okay. From Scout Comics, we have Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists. I know Yasmin was supposed to come out this week, but we haven't gotten our Scout orders in yet, but we did get Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists. Issue #2, I think, does a great job of picking up from issue #1, telling still a captivating story. It's not like something like super innovative. It's not doing something that hasn't been done before, but it's telling a neat little fun small town horror story with a little bit of mystery, and it never lets me down. The dialogue is very well done. The artwork is okay. I think the artwork could be a little bit stronger, but the writing is pretty solid, and I like the story. I'm intrigued enough by the characters and the mystery that's presented to keep coming back for more, and I just love that title, Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists. Issue #2, but there's a lot of mystery to answer in that book. Anyway, that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. What are you reading? What are you excited for? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss a single video. And join us at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts, blogs, and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.